Hello everyone, George here, Catholic Positive Energy. Nice to be back with you. I've been very sick for the past 2 weeks. I haven't had a broadcast since January 19th, so that's why you haven't heard from me for a while. I lost my voice, I sounded awful, I was very weak, I was struggling, coughing a lot. That's why I didn't have a broadcast for 2 weeks. And this is the first and only time I ever went that long without having a broadcast. Ever since I started Catholic Positive Energy 3 years ago, I have always broadcasted every single week, and even twice on vacations that I took even while I wasn't home. I still have a little bit of excuse me. I still have a little bit of a cough, but I pretty much got my voice back now to the point where I sound normal. Some of you might notice that my voice may not sound 100%. But anyways, today's broadcast is in loving memory of my favorite priest who just recently passed away. His name was Monsignor Tom Wallace. Now, unless you're one of my local fans and you know me personally and you live in my area, you're not going to know who he was. I'll explain. And anyways, I'll also, for those of you who follow me on the Facebook page, I'll put pictures and explanations of him in the comments below. So, anyways, Monsignor Tom Wallace was the first priest ever ordained in the Diocese of San Bernardino. The Diocese of San Bernardino became a diocese in 1978. Monsignor Tom Wallace was ordained January 18th, 1980 at Our Lady of the Rosary Cathedral in San Bernardino. And he was the most wonderful man of God you would have ever loved to have met in your life if you ever had the pleasure of meeting him. He was Scottish, but he grew up here. He didn't have a Scottish accent. And he had the most positive, loving attitude I've ever seen in any priest in my entire life. He worked as a missionary when he was just 5 years ordained. He went to Peru and Ecuador. He had also been a pastor of many parishes here in the Diocese of San Bernardino, in the High Desert, the Low Desert, Riverside Vicariate, San Bernardino, and Hemet. I remember when please forgive me. I remember when I was growing up, going to Mass at St. Martha's in Murrieta. He was the pastor there. Now, in those days, I didn't really care about going to church. I was just dragged along by my parents. And I remember he always had a big smile and a very wonderful, positive attitude that everyone loved and still loved to this day. I had never spoken to him when I was a kid. Because, when I was a kid and I would go to Mass, I just wanted to get in there and get out. So I'm not like that anymore. And he also became our first Episcopal Vicar of Riverside County from 2004 to 2013. Then he served as the director of our mission office until his passing. Here are some stories that I have. Obviously, I'll stick to the most positive. I always loved being in his presence. He presided over my confirmation ceremony on May 19th, 2009. I will never forget that day. I remember that I kind of knew who he was during that time, but I didn't really know much about him. And I remember before that ceremony, I heard somebody by the name of Monsignor Tom Wallace was going to be the presider, and I thought, oh, it's him. And he had, like he always did, a loving attitude, the most genuine, biggest smile. And he never talks fast or gets stressed or gets angry or badmouths anybody. Obviously, we all know people who have those qualities. He did not. He certainly did not. Hopefully that's the last cough. Anyways, so he always made a positive impact in everyone's lives just by being himself. And I remember at my confirmation ceremony, I took on the patron saint of St. George of England, because his name is George and my name is George. And that was also my patron saint at my baptism. I was confirmed at the age of 22, late bloomer, and it was a very wonderful ceremony, and I still remember a lot of it to this day, and I'll never forget it. And I eventually grew close to love Monsignor Tom Wallace, and he knew it. He knew he was my favorite priest. He was everyone's favorite priest. Everyone loved and respected him who knew him. And I remember every year for like the past maybe 13 or so years, he was ordained January 18th, 1980. So every year for the past 13 years on January 18th, I would always email him and tell him happy anniversary. And I remember I told him last month on January 18th, and he responded. That was 3 days before he died. He died on January 21st. He was 69 years old. I was hoping he would live for many more years because he was still standing, walking, and driving. But I didn't know anything about his medical history. His email that he responded to me 3 days before he died, he said, because I reminded him that I'm studying to get my master's degree in Catholic theology at Catholic Distance University. And I reminded him I'm not trying to be a priest. He said, "Thank you, George. I am very proud of you. I know that you love the Lord and you want to share it with others." And that is something I'm never going to forget. Forgive me if I get a little emotional. For many of you who have lost someone who you loved, if someone passed away, someone you cared about, I'm sure a lot of you probably thought at one point or another, I hope I made them proud. I hope they were proud of me. I never heard them say the words prior to their passing, but I hope they were proud, and I want to believe that they were proud of me. Well, I can honestly go on the rest of my life knowing that he was proud of me. I wanted him to be proud of me, and he was. There's no way I could doubt that because he told me that he was. And I was certainly proud of him. We all were. I know that our bishops were proud of him. All of the other clergy in the diocese, even deacons and their wives, were proud of him. Parishioners, very active in the Catholic Church, were very proud of him, as I was. Tomorrow I'm going to a vigil service and viewing for him, and then Monday there will be a funeral mass and an internment. I'm going to be at all of those. I was so devastated when I found out that Monsignor Tom Wallace had passed. He went to bed, and then he died in his sleep. He never woke up. Apparently he died peacefully. And I remember the very next day when I found out about this, and I saw it on Facebook and on the diocesan website, I was crying the whole day. I can't believe that I didn't get dehydrated. He was someone I really loved and respected, someone I was very, very close to, someone who I still needed in my life. We all needed him. Everyone loved him, not just me. Everyone. He had the best possible reputation a Catholic priest could have. And that's the kind of priest who we need out there in the world, showing the world the love of our Lord Jesus Christ so that people can see. I will say it's going to be very difficult for me to move on from this because he was someone I really loved and cherished and still do and will never stop. And like I say, I will try to utilize his holiness, his positive energy, his loving kindness in my life now. And I'll be very sincere about it. As a matter of fact, there have been times when I've had broadcasts here and I said, "And good evening to all you holy saints." That's what he would always say, but he said, "My holy saints." He's a priest, I'm not, so I say you because I'm not a priest. So, these were some wonderful stories that I have of my favorite priest, Monsignor Tom Wallace, and I will never forget him. I will always be thinking of him, and like I said, I will utilize his positive energy and personal holiness in my life now. I just can't believe he's gone. A lot of us feel that way. I'll be glad to meet some of his family members at the vigil service tomorrow and at the funeral Monday. But, for any of you who may have recently lost someone you love, someone you care about, whether they were related to you or not, I just say, try to grieve. It's a process. Definitely pray and don't leave God out of the equation. God needs to be heavily involved in your grieving if you are to heal properly. And try not to let it destroy you. I'm not letting it destroy me, but I'm just saying it's going to be very difficult because I'm not going to hear his voice. I'm not going to see him anymore. But I do love and cherish all of these memories. And I'll utilize his good, positive, holy, loving kindness in my life. Monsignor Tom Wallace was a good man, and I'll never forget him. You'll hear me talk about him a lot in future broadcasts because he's someone I'm always going to remember in the back of my thoughts, who was one of the most wonderful saints I have ever met in my life. And I haven't met very many saints who are saints in the making. I certainly met one in him. So please pray for me as I continue to grieve and try to move past this. But I also want to say, moving on now, because I didn't broadcast for 2 weeks because I was still very sick, I'll try to do some extra broadcasts just to catch up. So I should hopefully do the next broadcast before Wednesday. I'll do my meditation and prayer broadcast and then find another topic to talk about hopefully on Wednesday. So please pray for me as I'm still recovering from my illness. I sound a lot better than I've sounded in 2.5 weeks right now. So thank you for being here. Once again, I'm sorry I had not uploaded a new video yet, but because I was sick and I didn't have much of a voice, that's the reason why. And I did mention this on Facebook at least once. Hopefully you all saw it. But yes, so hope you enjoy your day. I hope everything's going very well for you. Please pray for me. I'll pray for you. So take care. God bless. And remember, dignification is better than criticism.